You think pyramids were just tombs. What you're about to hear will blow your mind. These massive stone monuments weren't silent, empty mausoleums, where dead pharaohs lay undisturbed for eternity. They were bustling centers of daily life, where thousands of people lived, worked, ate, slept, and raised families for decades. Inside these walls, priests performed daily rituals to keep the pharaoh's spirit alive. Workers carved their gang names into hidden stones, and entire communities thrived in villages that looked more like small cities. The pyramids weren't just burial places. They were the beating heart of ancient Egyptian civilization, where the living and the dead existed side by side in ways that would astound you. This is the story of what really happened inside Egyptian pyramids. The year is 2580 BCE, and you are approaching the Great Pyramid of Giza not as a tourist, but as someone whose entire life revolves around this towering monument. The morning sun casts long shadows across the limestone plateau, and the massive structure ahead of you dominates the horizon like a man-made mountain. But this isn't the silent, mysterious tomb that modern visitors imagine. This pyramid is alive with activity. The sound of hammers on stone, the voices of workers calling to each other, the creaking of wooden ramps, and the constant rhythm of daily life that has continued here for over 20 years. You are part of a rotating crew of laborers, farmers who have come here during the flood season when your fields lie underwater. Your village sent you and 20 other men to fulfill your obligation to the pharaoh. But you've discovered something unexpected. Life here isn't the brutal slavery that stories suggest. You sleep in long dormitories with your fellow workers, eat bread and drink beer provided by the royal administration, and earn wages that you'll take back to your family when your service ends in 3 months. As you walk toward the pyramid's base, you pass through what looks like a small city. Mud brick buildings stretch in every direction. Workshops where craftsmen shape tools. Bakeries where hundreds of loaves emerge from ovens each day. Breweries where vats of beer ferment to feed the workforce. And administrative buildings where scribes keep meticulous records of every worker, every tool, every ration of food. Smoke rises from countless fires, and the air carries the scents of baking bread, brewing barley, and the ever-present dust of limestone. The pyramid itself looms before you, its smooth white casing stones gleaming in the morning light. But this isn't a finished monument. It's a work in progress. Wooden ramps zigzag up its sides, and teams of men drag massive stone blocks up these inclined paths, using ropes, wooden rollers, and techniques passed down through generations. You can see other workers already at their positions on the pyramid's face, looking like tiny figures against the enormous structure they're helping to create. What strikes you most is the organization. This isn't chaos. It's a precisely coordinated operation that involves thousands of people working in perfect harmony. Your gang has a name, the Boat Gang of Khufu, and you wear this identity with pride. You've heard of other teams with names like Friends of Khufu and Drunkards of Menkor, and there's a friendly rivalry between the groups that keeps morale high despite the back-breaking work. The sound of a horn echoes across the site, signaling the start of the workday. You join the stream of workers heading towards the pyramid, knowing that today, like every day for the past 2 decades, you'll be part of something that will last forever. But first, you need to understand what's really happening inside this massive stone structure. And it's far more complex than anyone could imagine. As you step through the entrance passage that leads into the pyramid's interior, you leave behind the bright Egyptian sun and enter a world of shadows, echoing chambers and mysteries that few outsiders will ever witness. The narrow corridor ahead of you slopes downward into darkness, lit only by the flickering flames of oil lamps held by workers moving through the passages. The smell hits you immediately. Not the musty odor of an ancient tomb, but the living sense of human activity. Burning oil sweat, stone dust, and the lingering aroma of incense from the religious ceremonies that take place deep within these walls. The passage is barely wide enough for two people to pass, and the ceiling forces you to bend slightly as you walk. The walls around you are perfectly cut limestone, fitted together so precisely that you couldn't slip a knife blade between the blocks. But these aren't just structural walls. They're covered with markings left by the workers who built them. Hieroglyphic graffiti scratched into the stone tell stories of the gangs who worked here. The boat gang of Khufu was here, reads one inscription, while another proclaims, "We are the friends of Khufu, powerful ones." The sound of your footsteps echoes strangely in the confined space, mixing with the distant sounds of work happening deeper in the pyramid. You can hear the scraping of the tools on stone, the muffled voices of workers calling instructions to each other, and the rhythmic tapping of chisels as craftsmen perfect the fit of massive granite blocks. This pyramid isn't empty. It's full of people doing jobs that ranged from the mundane to the sacred. As you move deeper into the structure, you begin to understand the pyramid's true complexity. This isn't just a solid mass of stone with a burial chamber at its heart. It's a sophisticated building with multiple chambers, passages, and hidden spaces designed for specific purposes. The grand gallery ahead of you opens up like a cathedral, its corbelled ceiling soaring nearly 30 feet above your head. The walls are polished granite that gleams in the lamplight, and the acoustic properties of the space make every sound ring with an almost musical quality. But you're not here just to admire the architecture. You have work to do, and that work involves understanding the daily rhythms that govern life inside this massive structure. Teams of workers move through the passages with practiced efficiency, some carrying tools, others bearing offerings for the rituals that will take place in the upper chambers. Priests in white linen robes glide silently through the corridors, their shaved heads gleaming in the lamplight as they go about their sacred duties. The air grows thicker as you climb higher into the pyramid's interior, heated by the oil lamps and the presence of so many people working in enclosed spaces. But there's also something else in the atmosphere, a sense of reverence and purpose that affects everyone who enters these sacred chambers. You're not just inside a building, you're inside what the ancient Egyptians believed was a machine for transforming a dead king into a living god. You encounter your first group of permanent residents in the pyramid's lower chambers. The priests and technicians who maintain the complex system that keep this monument functioning. These aren't the high priests you see in religious ceremonies. They're working priests whose job is to ensure that the daily rituals continue without interruption. They live in small chambers carved into the pyramid's interior, sleeping on simple reed mats and eating meals prepared in the kitchens of the surrounding complex. One of them, a middle-aged man named Katie, greets you with a nod. His job is to maintain the oil lamps that provide light throughout the interior passages, and he knows every inch of the pyramid's internal structure. "New worker?" he asks, noting your unfamiliarity with the surroundings. When you nod, he smiles. You'll learn quickly. The pyramid teaches you what you need to know. Katie explains the basic rules of pyramid life. Certain passages are restricted. Only priests can enter the upper chambers where the most sacred rituals take place. Workers like you are responsible for maintaining the lower levels, ensuring that the oil supply never runs out, and helping with the massive logistical operation that keeps the pyramid functioning. Everyone has a role, and everyone's work is essential to the pyramid's purpose. But what is that purpose exactly? As you spend more time in the pyramid's interior, you begin to understand that it's far more than just a tomb. The chambers you work in are designed for specific functions that serve the deceased pharaoh's continued existence in the afterlife. The king's chamber, high in the pyramid's heart, contains the pharaoh's mummified body, but it's not a static resting place. Daily rituals are performed there to feed the king's spirit, to maintain his divine power, and to ensure his continued protection of Egypt. Other workers you meet have been here for years, some for their entire adult lives. There's Seneb, a master stonemason who helped design some of the pyramid's internal features. He lives with his wife Itet and their 2 children in the workers' village outside the pyramid. But he spends most of his waking hours inside the structure, supervising maintenance work and training new craftsmen. His knowledge of the pyramid's construction is encyclopedic. He can tell you why certain passages were built at specific angles, how the ventilation system works, and which stones came from which quarries. There's also Hemiunu, an administrative scribe who keeps detailed records of everything that happens inside the pyramid. His papyrus scrolls document every ritual performed, every maintenance task completed, every person who enters or leaves the sacred chambers. These records aren't just bureaucratic paperwork, they're part of the religious system that maintains the pharaoh's afterlife. Every detail must be recorded, every ritual must be documented, because the slightest error could disrupt the cosmic order that the pyramid exists to preserve. The women you meet inside the pyramid have roles that might surprise you. Nefret is a ritual specialist who prepares the offerings that are presented to the pharaoh's spirit each day. She knows the complex procedures for preparing bread, beer, and meat in the precise ways required by religious law. Her daughter Senet is learning these skills, part of a knowledge tradition that passes from mother to daughter through generations. But perhaps the most intriguing person you encounter is Chetty, an elderly priest who has served in the pyramid for over 40 years. He was here when the structure was completed, and he remembers the grand ceremony when the pharaoh's body was first installed in the king's chamber. His stories reveal the pyramid's transformation from a construction site to a functioning religious institution, and his deep knowledge of the rituals gives you insight into the pyramid's true purpose. These people aren't just workers or caretakers. They're the living heart of an institution that exists to bridge the gap between the world of the living and the realm of the dead. Their daily activities might seem routine, but each task is part of a larger system designed to maintain cosmic order and ensure the pharaoh's continued divine power. Inside the pyramid, daily life follows rhythms that have remained unchanged for decades. Each day begins before dawn with the lighting of the oil lamps throughout the interior passages. The priests, responsible for this task, move through the pyramid's chambers in a specific order, ensuring that no space is left in darkness. This isn't just practical lighting, it's a ritual act that symbolically brings light to the pharaoh's eternal dwelling. as the sun rises outside, the day's first meal is prepared in the kitchens of the surrounding complex. Workers inside the pyramid eat simple but nutritious food. Bread baked from emmer wheat, beer brewed from barley, vegetables grown in the fertile fields along the Nile, and occasional portions of meat from cattle raised specifically for the pyramid community. The food is distributed according to strict hierarchies. Skilled craftsmen receive larger rations than temporary laborers, and priests get special foods that are considered ritually pure. The work itself varies depending on your role and the pyramid's current needs. Maintenance teams check the structural integrity of the interior chambers, ensuring that no cracks have developed in the stone walls and that the ventilation system continues to function properly. The pyramid's internal air circulation is a marvel of engineering. Carefully positioned shafts allow fresh air to flow through the chambers while preventing the accumulation of moisture that could damage the pharaoh's mummy or the valuable grave goods stored throughout the structure. Other workers focus on the continuous ritual activities that are the pyramid's primary purpose. Teams of priests perform the daily feeding ritual for the pharaoh's spirit, presenting carefully prepared offerings in the king's chamber, while reciting prayers that have been passed down through generations. These ceremonies aren't performed once and forgotten. They happen every single day, maintaining the pharaoh's divine status and ensuring his continued protection of Egypt. The logistics of these operations are staggering. Every day, fresh bread must be baked, beer must be brewed, oil must be prepared for the lamps, and incense must be burned in the ritual chambers. The pyramid's interior contains storage areas where these supplies are kept, carefully organized, and constantly replenished by workers who understand that any interruption in the supply chain could disrupt the sacred rituals. But the pyramid's daily operations aren't just about religion and ritual. There's also a thriving intellectual life within these walls. Scribes maintain detailed records of astronomical observations made from the pyramid's precisely aligned passages. These observations are used to maintain the Egyptian calendar, predict flooding seasons, and ensure that religious festivals occur at the correct times. The pyramid functions as an observatory, its passages oriented to specific stars and constellations that play important roles in Egyptian cosmology. Medical knowledge is also preserved and practiced within the pyramid complex. Priests trained in healing arts treat injuries and illnesses that affect the workers, using techniques that combine practical medicine with religious rituals. The pyramid's medical practitioners understand anatomy, pharmacology, and surgical procedures that are remarkably advanced for their time. The pyramid also serves as a center for technological innovation. The engineering challenges of maintaining such a massive structure have led to the development of new tools, techniques, and materials. Workers inside the pyramid experiment with different types of stone preservation treatments, test new methods for moving heavy objects through narrow passages, and develop improved lighting systems that reduce the risk of fire in the confined spaces. Perhaps most surprisingly, the pyramid functions as a social center for the surrounding community. Workers' families visit regularly, bringing news from the outside world and maintaining connections between the pyramid's permanent residents and the broader Egyptian society. Children play in the pyramid's outer chambers, learning about their cultural heritage and the important work their parents perform. The evenings inside the pyramid have their own special character. As the day's work ends and the oil lamps are refilled for the night, the interior spaces take on an almost mystical quality. The dancing shadows created by the flickering flames seem to bring the hieroglyphic decorations to life, and the acoustic properties of the chambers make every whisper carry through the stone corridors. This is when the most sacred rituals take place. Deep in the heart of the pyramid, in chambers that few are allowed to enter, priests perform ceremonies designed to ensure the pharaoh's continued journey through the afterlife. These rituals involve complex prayers, precise movements, and the burning of specific incenses that fill the pyramid's interior with clouds of aromatic smoke. The workers who live inside the pyramid during these evening hours experience something that no modern person can fully understand. They are literally dwelling within what their culture believes is a divine machine, surrounded by the presence of a god-king whose power continues to protect and sustain their entire civilization. The psychological impact of this environment shapes their daily lives in profound ways, creating a sense of purpose and connection to cosmic forces that goes far beyond simple employment. The pyramid's interior harbors secrets and complexities that challenge everything most people think they know about these ancient monuments. Hidden chambers, discovered only recently by modern archaeologists, reveal that the pyramid's internal structure is far more intricate than anyone previously imagined. Some of these spaces appear to have been used for rituals that aren't documented in any surviving texts, suggesting religious practices that have been lost to history. The ventilation system, for example, is far more sophisticated than necessary for simple air circulation. The shafts that carry air through the pyramid are oriented to specific stars, and their precise angles suggest that they served astronomical as well as practical purposes. Workers inside the pyramid use these shafts to make observations that are crucial for maintaining the Egyptian calendar and predicting important celestial events. There are also areas within the pyramid that serve purposes that aren't immediately obvious. Some chambers appear to have been used for the storage of valuable materials, not just grave goods, but also strategic reserves of gold, precious stones, and other wealth that could be used to support the Egyptian state during times of crisis. The pyramid functions as a kind of national bank, its treasures carefully guarded but available when needed for the kingdom's defense or survival. The workers inside the pyramid also deal with challenges that outsiders rarely consider. The massive weight of the stone structure creates its own problems. Subtle shifts in the foundation that require constant monitoring, temperature variations that can cause expansion and contraction in the stones, and the gradual settling that affects any large building over time. Teams of specialists work continuously to address these issues, using techniques that combine engineering knowledge with religious ritual. Security is another constant concern. The pyramid contains treasures that would represent unimaginable wealth to most Egyptians, and protecting these valuables requires sophisticated systems of guards, locks, and hidden passages. Some workers inside the pyramid are essentially security specialists, responsible for ensuring that only authorized personnel can access the most sensitive areas. But perhaps the most intriguing aspect of the pyramid's hidden life involves the knowledge preservation systems that operate within its walls. Certain chambers contain libraries of papyrus scrolls that document everything from architectural techniques to medical procedures to astronomical observations. These archives aren't just storage areas. They're active research centers where scribes and priests work to expand human understanding of mathematics, engineering, medicine, and astronomy. The workers who maintain these knowledge preservation systems understand that they're not just serving the dead pharaoh. They're safeguarding information that could benefit all of Egyptian civilization. Some of the mathematical techniques developed within the pyramid's walls will eventually spread throughout Egypt and influence construction projects across the ancient world. There are also darker aspects to the pyramid's hidden life. Some chambers contain evidence of rituals that involve practices modern people would find disturbing. These aren't the human sacrifices that Hollywood movies suggest, but rather complex ceremonies involving the symbolic death and rebirth of participants, designed to create deeper connections between the living and the divine realm. The workers who participate in these rituals understand them as necessary parts of maintaining cosmic order, but the psychological effects can be profound. Some individuals who spend too much time in the pyramid's deepest chambers develop a kind of religious intensity that separates them from normal human society. They become completely devoted to their sacred duties, losing interest in the outside world and dedicating their entire existence to serving the pharaoh's spirit. The pyramid also contains spaces that serve as workshops for crafts that require complete darkness or specific environmental conditions. Some workers spend their entire careers in these hidden chambers, creating objects whose purposes aren't fully understood, but which play important roles in the pyramid's ritual systems. Perhaps most mysteriously, there are chambers within the pyramid that seem to have been designed for purposes that aren't documented in any surviving records. These spaces contain architectural features that don't match known Egyptian building techniques, and their functions remain a puzzle even to the workers who maintain them. The pyramid's role as an economic powerhouse extends far beyond its immediate surroundings, creating networks of trade and influence that reach across the ancient world. The resources required to maintain the pyramid's daily operations create demand for goods and services that support thousands of people throughout Egypt and beyond. The daily bread requirements alone represent a massive economic undertaking. The pyramid community consumes thousands of loaves each day, requiring grain from farms throughout the Nile Valley. This grain must be transported, stored, milled, and baked, using systems that operate with clockwork precision. The workers inside the pyramid depend on this supply chain, but they also contribute to it by providing skilled labor that benefits the broader economy. The pyramid's workshops produce goods that are traded throughout the ancient world. Craftsmen working within the complex create jewelry, furniture, tools, and artwork that are prized by wealthy customers from Nubia to the Levant. The techniques developed inside the pyramid's workshops influence artistic and technological development across the region. But the pyramid's economic influence goes deeper than simple trade relationships. The institution represents a kind of investment in the future that affects how all Egyptians think about wealth, power, and social organization. Workers who serve in the pyramid gain skills and experiences that they carry back to their home communities, spreading knowledge and creating networks of shared expertise. The pyramid also functions as a center for technological innovation that has implications far beyond its immediate purposes. The engineering challenges of maintaining such a massive structure have led to developments in mathematics, material science, and construction techniques that influence projects throughout Egypt and beyond. Workers inside the pyramid experiment with new methods for moving heavy objects, test different approaches to stone preservation, and develop improved tools that make construction work more efficient. These innovations spread through the networks of workers who rotate through the pyramid, eventually influencing building projects across the ancient world. The pyramid's role as a religious center also has economic implications. Pilgrims come from throughout Egypt to participate in festivals and ceremonies associated with the pharaoh's cult, bringing money and goods that support the local economy. These visitors need food, lodging and services, creating opportunities for workers and merchants in the surrounding area. The knowledge preservation systems operating within the pyramid also represent a kind of economic investment. The mathematical and engineering techniques documented in the pyramid's archives will eventually be used for projects that benefit all of Egyptian society. Irrigation systems, construction projects, and technological innovations that improve life for ordinary citizens. But perhaps the most important economic function of the pyramid involves its role in maintaining social stability. The massive project creates opportunities for social mobility, allowing skilled workers to advance their status and improve their families' fortunes. This social flexibility helps prevent the kind of unrest that could disrupt the entire Egyptian economy. The pyramid also serves as a symbol of Egyptian power and prosperity that influences trade relationships with other civilizations. Foreign merchants and diplomats who see the pyramid understand that they're dealing with a society capable of incredible achievements. And this reputation helps Egypt negotiate favorable trade agreements and political alliances. The cultural and intellectual life within the pyramid creates innovations and preserves knowledge that will influence human civilization for thousands of years. The workers inside these walls aren't just maintaining a tomb. They're operating institutions that advance human understanding in fields ranging from astronomy to medicine to mathematics. The astronomical observations made from within the pyramid's precisely aligned passages contribute to a growing understanding of celestial mechanics that will eventually influence scientific development throughout the ancient world. Workers inside the pyramid track the movements of stars and planets with remarkable precision, creating calendars and prediction systems that help Egyptian farmers plan their planting and harvesting. But the intellectual work happening inside the pyramid goes far beyond simple observation. Priest astronomers develop mathematical models that attempt to explain the underlying patterns governing celestial movements. These models represent some of the earliest attempts at what we would recognize as scientific theory, combining careful observation with mathematical analysis to create predictive systems. The medical knowledge preserved and developed within the pyramid represents another crucial contribution to human civilization. Priests trained in healing arts work with the pyramid's population to treat injuries and illnesses, developing techniques that combine practical medicine with religious ritual. Their understanding of anatomy, gained partly through the mummification processes performed within the pyramid, leads to surgical techniques that won't be equaled in other civilizations for centuries. The pyramid also serves as a center for technological innovation in fields ranging from metallurgy to engineering. The challenges of maintaining such a massive structure require constant experimentation with new materials, tools, and techniques. Workers inside the pyramid develop improved methods for cutting stone, moving heavy objects, and creating precise measurements that influence construction projects throughout the ancient world. Perhaps most importantly, The pyramid functions as a kind of university where knowledge from across Egyptian civilization is collected, preserved, and transmitted to future generations. Scribes working within the complex copy and recopying important texts, ensuring that crucial information won't be lost. They also work to develop new systems for organizing and accessing this knowledge, creating what amounts to some of the world's first libraries. The artistic and literary work produced within the pyramid also makes lasting contributions to human culture. The hieroglyphic texts carved into the pyramid's walls include some of the earliest known religious and philosophical writings, exploring questions about the nature of death, the afterlife, and humanity's relationship with divine forces. Craftsmen working within the pyramid develop artistic techniques that influence aesthetic development throughout the ancient world. Their work in stone carving, metalworking, and textile production sets standards that will be imitated and adapted by artists for centuries. The pyramid also serves as a center for cultural exchange, where ideas from different parts of Egypt and beyond are brought together and synthesized. Workers from various regions bring their own traditions and techniques, creating a cosmopolitan environment that fosters innovation and creativity. But perhaps the most profound cultural contribution of the pyramid involves its role in developing and preserving Egyptian religious and philosophical traditions. The daily rituals performed within its walls help maintain beliefs and practices that provide meaning and structure for millions of people throughout Egyptian history. The seasonal and religious rhythms that govern life within the pyramid connect its residents to the larger cycles that shape all of Egyptian society. The flooding of the Nile, which occurs with reliable regularity each year, determines when agricultural workers are available for pyramid duty and affects the supply of materials needed for daily operations. During flood season, when the fields are underwater, thousands of additional workers arrive at the pyramid complex. These temporary residents transform the community, bringing news from distant villages, different regional traditions, and fresh perspectives on the work being performed. The pyramid's permanent residents look forward to these seasonal arrivals, which break the routine of daily maintenance and ritual duties. The religious calendar also plays a crucial role in determining the pyramid's activities. Certain ceremonies can only be performed on specific dates, determined by astronomical observations, and these events require elaborate preparations that can take weeks to complete. During major religious festivals, the pyramid becomes the center of celebrations that attract thousands of participants from throughout Egypt. The harvest season brings its own changes to pyramid life. As workers return to their farms, the pyramid's population decreases, but the intensity of ritual activities often increases. This is the time when the most sacred ceremonies are performed, when contact between the living and the divine realm is believed to be strongest. Political events in the broader Egyptian kingdom also affect daily life within the pyramid. Changes in royal policy, military campaigns, and diplomatic missions all have implications for the pyramid's operations. Sometimes workers are reassigned to support royal projects elsewhere, or new resources become available that allow for expanded activities within the complex. But perhaps the most profound external influence involves the gradual changes in Egyptian religious beliefs and practices that occur over time. The pyramid was built according to specific theological principles. But these beliefs evolve as new ideas develop and spread throughout Egyptian society. Workers inside the pyramid must adapt their rituals and practices to accommodate these changes while maintaining the essential functions that the pyramid was designed to serve. The pyramid also responds to external threats that occasionally challenge Egyptian security. During times of war or political instability, the pyramid can serve as a fortress, its massive walls and limited entrances making it an ideal refuge for valuable people and objects. The workers who normally focus on ritual and maintenance duties can quickly transform into defenders, using their intimate knowledge of the pyramid's interior to create defensive advantages. Climate variations also affect pyramid operations. Unusually hot or cold weather can disrupt the supply chains that provide food and materials, while changes in the Nile's flooding patterns can affect the availability of workers and resources. The pyramid's managers must constantly adapt to these environmental challenges, developing contingency plans that ensure continuity of operations regardless of external conditions. The people who run the pyramid represent a fascinating mix of religious authorities, skilled technicians, and administrative experts whose combined efforts make the complex operation possible. At the top of the hierarchy is the high priest of the pyramid cult, a position that requires not only deep religious knowledge, but also exceptional organizational and leadership skills. The high priest, a man named Ptahhotep, has served in this role for over 15 years. His responsibilities include overseeing all ritual activities, managing the pyramid's substantial economic resources, and maintaining relationships with royal officials and other religious institutions throughout Egypt. His living quarters within the pyramid complex are modest but comfortable, reflecting his focus on spiritual rather than material concerns. Working under Ptahhotep are several specialized priests who handle different aspects of the pyramid's religious functions. There's Khoemwaset, who specializes in the astronomical observations that determine when specific rituals must be performed. His deep knowledge of star movements and calendar calculations makes him indispensable to the pyramid's operations. Amenhotep serves as the pyramid's chief ritualist, responsible for ensuring that all ceremonies are performed with the precise attention to detail that religious law requires. His training includes not only the memorization of complex prayers and procedures, but also understanding of the symbolic meanings behind every gesture and word used in the rituals. The pyramid's technical operations are managed by Senebkay, a master engineer whose family has been involved with pyramid construction and maintenance for 3 generations. His knowledge of the structure's internal systems is encyclopedic, and he trains the specialists who maintain the ventilation systems, monitor structural integrity, and handle the complex logistics of moving people and materials through the narrow passages. Administrative functions are handled by Nefertiti, one of the few women in senior management positions within the pyramid complex. Her responsibilities include managing the vast record-keeping systems that track everything from worker assignments to ritual supplies to astronomical observations. Her staff of scribes maintains detailed documentation that will be studied by future generations, seeking to understand how the pyramid operated. The day-to-day supervision of workers is handled by a team of experienced foremen who understand both the technical requirements of pyramid maintenance and the human dynamics of managing large groups of people in challenging conditions. These supervisors, men like Amenemheb and Senusret, have worked their way up through the ranks and understand the physical and psychological demands of life inside the pyramid. Perhaps most intriguingly, the pyramid employs several individuals whose roles blur the boundaries between religious, technical, and administrative functions. These are people who combine deep spiritual understanding with practical skills, serving as bridges between the pyramid's sacred purposes and its operational requirements. There's Imhotep, a priest-physician who treats both physical ailments and spiritual problems affecting the pyramid's residents. His medical knowledge is extensive, but he also understands how the unique environment inside the pyramid can affect people's mental and emotional well-being. Kentika serves as both a ritual specialist and a security expert, responsible for ensuring that access to the pyramid's most sensitive areas is properly controlled while maintaining the smooth flow of daily activities. His role requires understanding both religious protocols and practical security measures. The pyramid also employs families whose members have specialized in particular aspects of its operations for generations. The family of Ptah has maintained the oil lamp systems for over 50 years, developing techniques and knowledge that are passed down from father to son. Their understanding of how to provide consistent lighting throughout the pyramid's complex interior is crucial to all other activities. These managers and specialists work together with a level of coordination that reflects decades of experience and institutional knowledge. They understand that their individual responsibilities are part of a larger system designed to maintain the pharaoh's continued divine power, and this shared purpose creates a sense of unity and dedication that transcends personal ambitions or conflicts. As you reach the end of your rotation and prepare to return to your village, you carry with you an understanding of the pyramid that few people will ever possess. You've seen behind the massive stone walls into a world where the living and the dead coexist in daily partnership, where ancient wisdom guides modern innovation, and where ordinary people dedicate their lives to maintaining cosmic order. The pyramid isn't just a tomb or a monument to royal vanity. It's a functioning institution that serves purposes ranging from the deeply spiritual to the intensely practical. Inside its walls, priests perform rituals that maintain the pharaoh's divine power. Craftsmen create objects of lasting beauty, scholars preserve and expand human knowledge, and workers from across Egypt come together in common cause. The people you've met during your time here, Katie with his encyclopedic knowledge of the lamp systems, Seneb and his mastery of stonework, Nefret and her expertise in ritual preparation, Jetty with his decades of priestly service, represent a kind of dedication and skill that transcends simple employment. They are guardians of traditions that stretch back to the very beginning of Egyptian civilization, and their daily work ensures that these traditions will continue for generations to come. The daily rhythms you've experienced, the morning lighting of the lamps, the careful preparation of ritual offerings, the constant maintenance of the vast stone structure, the evening ceremonies that connect the living with the divine, create a way of life that is both demanding and deeply fulfilling. The workers inside the pyramid understand that their efforts contribute to something far larger than themselves, and this knowledge gives meaning to even the most mundane tasks. The pyramid's hidden complexities, its sophisticated ventilation systems, its role as a center for technological innovation, its function as a repository for accumulated knowledge, reveal a civilization far more advanced and nuanced than most people imagine. The ancient Egyptians who built and operated these structures possessed understanding and capabilities that in many ways rival our own. But perhaps most importantly, Your time inside the pyramid has shown you that the boundary between past and present, between the living and the dead, between the mundane and the sacred, is far more fluid than modern people typically imagine. The pyramid exists as a bridge between these different realms, and the people who work within its walls participate daily in maintaining connections that most of us have forgotten how to perceive. The lessons you take away from your pyramid experience extend far beyond ancient history. The dedication, skill, and sense of purpose that you've witnessed speak to enduring human capacities for cooperation, creativity, and transcendence. The workers inside the pyramid demonstrate that ordinary people, when united by shared vision and guided by accumulated wisdom, can accomplish things that seem impossible. Their understanding that individual lives gain meaning through contribution to lasting institutions. Their willingness to dedicate themselves to purposes that extend beyond personal benefit. Their ability to find joy and fulfillment in challenging work. These are qualities that remain as relevant today as they were 4,500 years ago. The pyramid stands not just as a monument to a dead king, but as a testament to the human capacity for creating meaning, preserving knowledge, and working together toward goals that transcend individual mortality. The people who built it, maintained it, and dedicated their lives to its purposes understood something profound about what it means to be human. Something that we, despite all our technological advances, are still struggling to rediscover. As you walk away from the pyramid and back toward your village, you carry with you not just memories of an extraordinary experience, but understanding of possibilities that exist whenever people choose to work together with dedication, skill, and shared purpose. The pyramid's true treasure isn't the gold buried with the pharaoh. It's a demonstration that human beings working together can create institutions and achievements that outlast any individual life and contribute to the ongoing story of human civilization. If you enjoyed this journey through history and found yourself drifting peacefully into the world of ancient Egypt, please consider subscribing to our channel. We explore the hidden stories behind history's most fascinating places, bringing you the sights, sounds, and experiences that made our ancestors human, just like us. Sweet dreams. And thank you for joining us in discovering what really happened inside Egyptian pyramids.